Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash, which is a channel dedicated to Sigmar, and in this video I've regained my voice after Nurgle the bastard has taken it away from me. So we are going to be returning to Tzeentch. Now, I actually did my first voting poll to see what video you guys wanted up next, and I was actually overwhelmed by how many people gave their opinions on what video they would want between Warcry and Tzeentch. And Tzeentch managed to win it by 3%. But what I don't understand is that when it was like on 50 something votes, it was still at 50% Warcry, 50% Tzeentch. So it was really close, and just like the EU referendum. So we're going to go into Tzeentch now. So like I say, apologies if my throat's a little bit bad, but I've regained my voice, so I want to crack on with this. So what we're going to be talking about in this, and the first army video theirs, is going to be their allegiance abilities. And we're going to start with their battle traits. So if your army has the Tzeentch allegiance and chose to take the Tzeentch allegiance abilities, it has the following rule. So you've got the most important one that we all know and love, depending on which side of the table you're on. It's Master of Destiny. And this is after setup, but before rolling for first turn. Roll 9 dice and bank them as Destiny dice. That you can use in place of casting Unbinding, Run, Charge, to hit, wound, save, damage or battleshock rolls. You may use 1 destiny dice per die. So to completely control a charge, you must use 2 destiny dice at any moment. Your army can't have more than 9 dice. So you can't have more than 9 dice, so naturally your destiny pool is going to be quite limited. But if you could have more than 9 dice, then it would just be ridiculous in my opinion. So, there are good ways to use them though, and there are ways to regain your Destiny dice as well. So you can regain your Destiny dice by using spells, also things like battalions, stuff like that. Yeah, you could argue that you're wasting a spell to get a Destiny dice back and all that sort of thing, but Tzeentch you have more than enough ways to cast spells. So, there are ways to regain them, and there's I think there's command traits and stuff as well that allows you to regain them as well. I've fought many a time Tzeentch armies at tournaments where I thought, well, they've rolled quite a good 9 dice for their Destiny dice. However, you know, once those 9 dice are gone, they're gone. But every time he used one, he managed to get like another one back by getting lucky with a dice roll, by rolling a 6 or so. And it was just a massive pain in the arse, basically. So the 9 Destiny dice you get at the start of the game, if you build your list right, they will not be the only Destiny dice you get throughout the game, but you have to spend them to gain more, if you see what I mean. So talking about the Destiny dice themselves, so obviously you can use those Destiny dice for any one of the things I just listed. And that means that you can have anything from the result of a 1 to 6 in each one of those dice, obviously, because it's a d6 you roll. So naturally, the 6s, the 5s and the 4s and so on are going to be the most ideal dice you roll, aren't they? However, remember that 1s and 2s, don't just discard them. They are useful, special things like a battleshock test. And if you're taking Tzeentch demons and you've got like a lot of pink horrors running around, if you use a 1 for their battleshock test, it means you get d6 back. So naturally 1s become really good for certain situations. So if you're taking a lot of demons with banners, it's going to be really good for them. And naturally 6s are going to be great for things like doing mortal wounds on 6s, to be able to like basically guarantee you get your spells off, to get your charges, to get your runs, you know, all these sort of things, the guaranteed hits. 6s, you can't argue, and everything in between does have its uses. So that is a very powerful allegiance ability. I would say it's their most powerful one because it just negates the randomness of a dice game, which in my honest opinion, I personally don't like it, because the reason I love Warhammer and playing on the tabletop, I love the randoms. I love how the game is decided by the result of what you roll. You could have the best army in the world, you could be the best general in the world, but if you get nothing but bad dice, you're going to have a really hard time. Whereas with this, it sort of limits it, the luck, shall we say, and you don't really need it as much. It's not broken by any stretch of imagination, but it just takes a random element out, what I don't like. But anyway, if you're a Tzeentch player, it's good for you. Okay, so we're going to go into the next battle trait, and this is going to be how you summon in the Tzeentch army. So this is for summoning demons as Tzeentch. And as AOS 2, you know, summoning demons by spells, using reinforcement points, etc. are no longer things that you save army points for while building your list and then summon on a toolbox worth of stuff later in the game. It is now, each army has their own way to summon, don't they? Legions of Nagash, Flesh Eater Courts, Slanesh, obviously, because their one is really, really good. Seraphon, there's plenty of them, Khorne, the list goes on and on. So, each army has their own unique way of doing it, and this is the Tzeentch's one. So what you have to do to summon demons, you must spend fate points, which are generated when either player successfully casts a spell without it getting unbound. You must have at least 10 fate points to be able to summon, and after that you can summon as many units as you have points for at the end of the movement phase. Set up wholly within 12 inches of a Tzeentch hero and more than 9 inches away from enemy units. So you've got wholly within range there, which is a standard thing, to be honest. I'm not going to say that's bad because it's just standard generally flat out these days, especially with things like summoning. More than 9 inches away from the enemy, that's standard as well. And we have got a list of things you can summon. So we have a variety of things from basic stuff, obviously going to cost you cheaper and fate points, and then the most expensive thing that's going to cost you a fair few fate points. So starting from the basic stuff going up to the top. So to start with, we've got 10 fate points, which is going to give you 3 Screamers of Tzeentch. Alternatively, you could spend that 10 fate points on 10 Brimstone Horrors of Tzeentch or 10 Blue Horrors of Tzeentch. For 12 fate points, you could have a Herald of Tzeentch on disc or just a standard Herald of Tzeentch. And you could also have an Exalted Flamer of Tzeentch. And then going up to 18 fate points, you could have 3 Flamers of Tzeentch, or you could have 1 Burning Chariot of Tzeentch. And then going up to 20 fate points, you could have 10 Pink Horrors of Tzeentch. Going up to 24 fate points, you could have 1 Herald of Tzeentch on Burning Chariot. And then for the big guy himself, at 36 points, you could have 1 Lord of Change. Now, as amazing as that all sounds, the Tzeentch summoning mechanic is not the worst, but it's not the best, in all honesty. Just because you do get it by casting spells, and if they're not unbound, this is from you and your opponent. So when your opponent casts spells that you don't unbind, that means that you get a summoning point from them, a fate point. And this really does depend, what army you're fighting up against. If you're fighting against Dispossessed at the moment, but I know they're going to get rolled into Cities of Sigmar, but at the moment you're fighting against, Dispossessed or Khorne, it's the better example. You're not really going to be getting any fate points from your opponent, more than likely. But in your own army, remember, you're casting so many spells that you could have potentially on average, 6 a turn sort of thing. Your opponent on average is probably casting about 4 spells, depending if you unbind them or not. So, that's 10 a turn. And then, you've got, 5 turns in Age of Sigmar, which is on average, 50 points. This is very quick maths I'm trying to do in my head. And yeah, you could go, well, that's 50 points, on the last turn. It's not going to be particularly useful. It's not. But unlike, Seraphon, where it's a case of you can cast a spell with your Slan, or you can summon. It's like that. And I'm not saying it's a direct comparison, but Tzeentch, you're not having to sacrifice anything, bar maybe trying to not unbind the enemy spells to get fate points, whereas something like Seraphon, you have to make a sacrifice. But Tzeentch, you don't. It's just an extra bonus you get, which is good. Okay, so those are the battle traits. So you only got 2, but they are good ones. You've got a summoning mechanic, which a lot of armies would kill for, and then you've got a Destiny dice pool, which, again, no other army in Age of Sigmar has something like that. So, moving on to the command traits, and there are actually 3 tables to pick from on the command traits, similar to what we saw for, Maggot King of Nurgle and some of the other armies I reviewed. And you've got one for Archonites, one for Demons, and one for Mortals. So Archonites are, like the brand new sort of mortal guys that came out for Tzeentch. And then Demons are obviously the Demons of Tzeentch, and then the Mortals are, Slaves of Darkness and stuff. Like I say, very similar to what we saw for Maggot King of Nurgle. So if you have a combination of keywords though, like if you've got, for example, a Chaos Lord on Demonic Mount, as is something I've used in the past, because it's on a Demonic Mount, even though it is just a horse, the horse is demonic and actually has the demon keyword. But as it is a Chaos Lord on top of it, and obviously this is from the Slaves of Darkness range, he has the mortal keyword. So that means he could pick the command trait from the demon side, or he could pick it from the mortal side. He cannot pick one from each side, he has to choose, but it means he has more variety in his choice. So the first ones we're going to look at are going to be for the Arcanite generals of a Tzeentch army. So the first one you have is Arch Sorcerer, which allows your hero to know 2 more spells from the Law of Fate. And essentially, take it if your Magistra, which is, like your Tzeentch Arcanite Wizard, is your general, because he's the only one really to abuse this, to be honest. So that's alright. If you want to really push out the magic potential, do it. There are some good spells in the Law of Fate which we will get to later, but there are better command traits, I'd say. So let's get on to the next one. So we've got Nexus of Fate. So roll a dice at the start of your hero phase. You can replace one of your destiny dice with rolls of 1 or 6. Basically, what it means is that you can obviously, you roll if you roll a dice on a 1 or 6. You can replace one of your destiny dice. You don't have to, but it means if you feel like you've got too many 2s and 3s, shall we say, and you feel like 1s are going to be more useful because you could use them for bringing back your demons. You pick horrors and stuff on the battleship rolls, and 6s, well, you just want 6s, don't you, at the end of the day. So it can be useful for that. It does only work though if your general is on the battlefield. So if your general dies, you've lost this. But it is a good way to improve on your destiny dice, because like I say, your destiny dice are really good because it means that you don't have to roll later in the game to make some of your choices of what dice results you want, essentially. But you do have to roll those 9 destiny dice at the start of the game, and you can't choose what those 9 destiny dice are going to be. So if you handed really bad luck and you just get 2s and 3s, let's say that's probably the worst results, this gives you an option to be able to change it. Of course, it's only on a 1 and 6, and you may only want to get the 6s and you end up getting 1s, so it's not worth it. But you don't have to replace the dice with the 1 or 6, which is important to mention, and it's just a good way for you to enhance your pool, essentially. So moving on to the third command trait is Magical Supremacy. So it increases dispelling range to 42 inches for your general, so you can abuse this on the Curseling because he is really good at binding spells and learning things and all that sort of stuff. And you can add 12 inches to the dispel range, and if he does dispel it, then he gets to cast that spell without your opponent being able to dispel it in return, which is great really, because there's so many ways to be able to dispel the enemy now, especially with dispelling being 30 inches compared to Age of Sigmar. When it first started, it used to be a lot shorter, so dispelling's a lot easier to do, so to prevent your opponent from doing that, and you basically just stealing the spell. So I've had it when I've taken Arcan to a tournament, tried to do Cast of Years. It got unbound by the Curseling, and then the Curseling did Curse of Years onto a big Morghast unit of mine and nearly wiped it out. So it really can turn it against the enemy, and the enemy doesn't always expect it. And even if the enemy knows full well what the Curseling can do, and even with the Magical Supremacy command trait to give him the extra range to dispel, they probably think, what are the chances of him being able to do it? So it can play around with your opponent, especially if they are frightened by it, because that's one thing, your opponent thinking, yeah, you're not going to get it off. But it's another thing for your opponent to know full well, like myself, I've had it go off against me in a really bad way, and now that probably makes me a bit more frightened when I go and play a game against the Curseling, especially with that command trait. I'll be a bit more worried to use those really deadly spells because I don't want them used back on me. So yeah, it's a good way to muck around your opponent, that Magical Supremacy. So the fourth command trait is the Boundless Mutation. So this is a bit of a funny one, and basically what it does, so in your hero phase, on a 2+, you heal D3 wounds, but if you roll a 1, your hero takes a wound, and if that wound kills him, he becomes nothing more but a Chaos Spawn. So basically it's risky, but it can keep you alive. And the important thing with that, your general is more likely going to be a spellcaster. So the longer he's alive, the more spells he can cast, which allows him to get more fate points, so more for summoning. So just remember that, it keeps him alive. However, if you roll 1, you take a more wound. So if you've got like a general that's only got 5 wounds, I wouldn't take this, because the chances of getting that 1 mortal wound to yourself is probably going to be more of a threat than the benefit of healing D3 wounds, because a lot of time with 5 wound heroes, especially like, well, the Tzeentch army, it's not the the toughest army to kill with a sense of their saves and stuff. Essentially what will happen is the enemy, when they attack your 5 wound general, they will just probably not do any damage or just kill him outright. Healing D3 wounds is good, but on a roll of a 1 taking 1 more wound, I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't do it. And you can't use your Destiny dice to make it a 2. But you get a spawn if he dies by it, so you still end up with a model, and no, you don't have to pay points for it. But from the command traits we read so far, which are like they just give you benefits, this can give you a negative. So I wouldn't take it unless for specific reasons. Okay, so number 5 we've got Cult Demug. I don't know how to pronounce that, but I can tell you what the description is. So it gives 2+ bravery to all Tzeentch Arcanines within 9 inches of the general with that command trait. So basically it can be very helpful if you plan on having hordes and keeping them in the fight for longer. Because essentially, remember this is for your Arcanites, so it's not going to benefit your demons. And your Arcanites haven't got particularly good bravery at all. They're not the worst out there, but they're not good. So if you've got big blocks of Acolytes, or even you've got, big blocks of Zangors, still don't have the best bravery. So it's a really good way to fix that problem with Tzeentch. Now you can say Tzeentch just fix the problems by just using their 1s and 2s in a Destiny dice pool to just sort out their battle shock test. However, if you've got a big block of Arcanites that have taken a huge amount of casualties, if you give them, a 2 for their battle shock test, they're probably still going to lose quite a few. So this just gives you, essentially, you're going to lose 2 less. And when I use like Arcanites or Acolytes, I think they're called Acolytes. As the example here, Zangors, you don't want to be losing them in battle shock even more so, and their bravery isn't particularly good, so it does help. So I would say this is good if you want to take hordes in your Tzeentch army. If you're going with, obviously, an Aconite army. But I think, okay, let me just get it right. I think they're called Arcanites, okay? So you've got Arcanites and you've got Acolytes that are the human, basically the Reavers for Tzeentch. So we clarified that. Okay, so if you're taking Arcanites, obviously heavy army. If you're taking a lot of them in big blocks, I would say definitely give that a go. I think it could be very useful. If you're going for an elite army, a lot of Skyfires and Lighten, that sort of thing, I wouldn't take it. Okay, and then number 6, we've got Arcane Sacrifice. In your hero phase, you can deal D3 mortal wounds on a friendly unit. If you do so, then your hero gets +9 to the range of the spell and reroll to cast. So there are certain things that are good for this. I mean, you've got the Kirsten, which I've already mentioned, which is a good caster for the Arcanites of Tzeentch. However, I mean, it is really good getting 9+ to range, and you could just pick something that you don't care about to take the D3 more wounds, but it is still making a sacrifice to get the benefit. However, it does allow you to reroll that casting, and like we said, the more casts you get off, or your enemy gets off, the more fate points you get allows for summoning. But it's a sacrifice, isn't it? I mean, I think personally what I would go for out of all the command traits I've listed for the Arcanites is probably going to be the Cult of Demagogue, or the Cult of whatever I cannot pronounce. If you're taking hordes, if you're not taking hordes, I would go for probably Magical Supremacy, which gives you the extra range to cast spells, or Nexus of Fate. I think Nexus of Fate is probably my preferred one out of all those options, just because if you get given a bad lot of dice for your Destiny dice, it's not the end of the world, because you have already adapted something into your list to be able to try and fix those bad Destiny dice you got. It's not a guarantee, but it can help with it. And I think a lot of the army relies on Destiny dice. Not everything, but the Destiny dice is something that you can really depend on. And anything to enhance that, I think, is the way to go. Okay, so what we're going to go to next is going to be the command traits for the demons. So again, like I said, this could be for your standard Tzeentch demons, but there are some mortals out there that have demon keywords. So it's worth double checking what keywords the general has that you are inquiring about to make sure that you have full knowledge of all the potential command traits and artifacts and spell laws and so on, what you can give them. Okay, so for the command traits for the demons, First one is Arch Sorcerer. So this is going to be the same as the Arch Sorcerer we saw for the Arcanite. Number 2, we've got Nexus of Fate, which is also the same as the Arcanite. And number 3 is Magical Supremacy, which is the same for the Arcanite. You're also going to see this for the Immortals as well. So essentially, each 3 of these lists have 6 command traits to choose from. However, the first 3 in each list are all the same. However, for the first one, Arch Sorcerer, there's a slight twist for each list because each list has its own lore of spells to choose from, so it adapts to that. So for example, the Demons, the Arch Sorcerer, allows your hero to know 2 spells from the Change lore. So on a Lord of Change, this could be pretty fun, but on Heralds, it's a bit of a waste of a command trait. And then the next one, Nexus of Fate, is going to be the same. Magical Supremacy, like I say, it's the same. So we really start looking at the new ones when it comes to number 4, which is Demonic Spark. So once per battle, your general can increase the damage of its melee weapons by 1 for the rest of the turn. A temporary damage boost may sound awesome, but think for a moment who can get it. Remember, Tzeentch is not a massively heavy combat army. It can fight in combat and it can do quite well, but the leaders are not massive combat monsters. Of course, the Lord of Change is going to be able to do some damage, but that's not what he's there for. And things like, Heralds and Fate Masters, Gaunt Summoners, Zangor Shamans, they're not really big hitters. So, I mean, this isn't bad if you got, obviously a Lord of Change, but, if you've got things like a Demon Prince, could be a viable option, but it's not what Tzeentch is known for, so I wouldn't emphasize it. Like I've said before in different army videos, like when you have like an army that doesn't really have any heavy combat heroes, and then there are artifacts, command traits that can like make them slightly better in combat and then make them okay, don't do it. Use the command traits and artifacts that really benefit towards the army's strength, not try and give the army something else with a moderate combat boost, or in this example anyway. So moving on to number 5, we've got Incorporeal Form. So enemy units subtract 1 from hit rolls in the combat phase when they target the general. Again, your general most likely wants nothing to do with melee and combat like I've just mentioned, but if you want to help him survive, he can get stuck in, and like I say, the longer he's alive, or she's alive obviously, the longer you're going to be able to cast spells if you've got a wizard as your general, which you're more than likely going to. And the other thing is, it's not always just so much like, you're not going to want to get your general stuck into combat really, so this might not be useful. It's not all about up to you when your general gets stuck into combat. It's when the enemy charges you, it's when the enemy ambushes you, it's when the enemy basically flanks you and gets you off guard. And in those situations you might think, fuck, my general's going to die, I really didn't expect this to happen, and I cannot afford to lose my general. This simply making the enemy -1 to hit, it might not change anything. The enemy might just chuck a buckload of attacks at you and there's nothing you can really do to prevent your general from dying. However, if the enemy's quite even on the attacks they're chucking at you, where it's like they could kill your general but they need to work for it, the -1 to hit might stop them from doing so. So it's quite a good... I would say the Incorporeal Form is a good command trait, not for getting your guy stuck into combat, but for when your guy gets basically charged by the enemy on their terms, and you're going in your head, fuck, I did not want this to happen, it might save you. Okay, so the last command trait we have for them is number 6, and this is Aether Tifa. So reroll save rolls are 1, and it may not sound like much, but it could end up saving your ass essentially, because this guy, remember, that is a free Mystic Shield, isn't it? And if you're taking Slaves to Darkness guys, and you've got the Chaos Sorcerer Lord and then the Chaos Sorcerer Lord on Manticore, they basically can give a friendly unit a free Mystic Shield anyway, which the enemy can't stop. So if you've got 1 or 2 of those things in your army, I'd say don't worry about this. But if you haven't, it could be a good way to make your guy just a bit more survivable. Potentially how shooting was really powerful in Age of Sigmar and then went away a bit, and now it's starting to become more powerful. Especially with the Cities of Sigmar book and a lot of artillery coming more into play now. You got also like the new skeleton guys, got that big catapult. You don't really want that hitting your general probably when that comes out. So yeah, it's something, isn't it? So out of all these for me, I'd probably go Arch Sorcerer if you're taking a Lord of Change to your General. If you're not taking him as your General, I would go with Arch Sorcerer. And then after that, I would go with Aether Tether. So the reroll save rolls are 1, to be honest, unless you've got a Chaos Sorcerer Lord from Slaves of Darkness in your army that you're planning to put there. I think it's called Ocular Vision onto your General. Cool. And then going on to the next set of command traits, and this is going to be for the mortals, so this is going to be for your Slaves of Darkness. Now, as the Chaos dedicated God videos I'm doing and reviewing, I don't review Slaves of Darkness units in them because I have already reviewed Slaves of Darkness. You're more than willing to check out that playlist for sort of like my review on the army units and stuff that you can use in these God divided armies. So it is quite a useful watch if you want to take them. And you also remember in Mortals, a lot of the Arcanite stuff's mortal, all these sorts of things, so it's worth bearing that in mind as well, as a lot of things, like I've already mentioned, do share keywords. So the first 3 command traits are going to be the same, apart from Arch Sorcerer, allows your hero to know 2 more spells from the Law of Destiny, and that's that. So it's alright, but it's not amazing because your mortal sorcerers aren't always the best. I mean, you know, you do have the Curselin and stuff like that, but like I say, I've already talked about all the good reasons for him. So the next one, Nexus of Fate, we've already talked about. And then the next one, Magical Primacy, we've already talked about. And then going into Blessings of Tzeentch, so this gives you a 6+ save after save. So basically it gives you what I like to call a death save. A lot of people call it a ward save from, Warhammer Fantasy. But, I call it a death save, which is good. It allows you to negate 1/6 of all damage done to your hero. It might not sound like a lot, but if the enemy's chucking a lot of attacks to you, it certainly does mean it. And if you've got, a Chaos Sorcerer Lord on Manticore, 12 wounds is definitely going to help you out, keep you alive for that bit longer so you can cast more spells. And the Chaos Sorcerer Lord on Manticore has a lovely spell that I absolutely love. It's called a Winds of Chaos. And if you've ever used it, it's quite hard to get off, but if you do get it off, I've managed to do Star Trek with it before. So just a little hint of how cool it can be. But anyway, going back to the command traits, so that's Blessings of Tzeentch at number 4, and number 5 we've got Soul Burn. And what this essentially does is that wound rolls of a 6 plus do an additional mortal wound damage in melee. Thing is, the problem with this, if you're looking at taking your caster as your general, this is absolutely pointless. Don't even consider this at any other second longer. But if you've got like a Chaos Lord or, a Nogoroid or something like that, it could be better. Or a Demon Prince, that's what I'm thinking. So if you want to go one of those options, it can be good. But in my honest opinion, it's really not worth it. In Tzeentch, like I've said, you're not known for your combat. You're known for your, generals anyway, and heroes. You're not known for your combat. You're known for your magic potential. So you might as well try and enhance that, or try and enhance the army, rather than try and enhance your own personal combat abilities. So yeah, not a fan of that. And then finally, at number 6, we've got the Illusionist. So this means that you're -1 to hit for your general at range. So, it helps keep your general alive from the, barrage of attacks you're now going to get from things like Cities of Sigmar artillery, Bone Splitters. I'm imagining the Arrow Boy is still going to be good, and things like Shootcast, etc. It's just a good way to keep your guy alive for longer. Like I say, alive for longer, cast more spells, more fate points. That's all really about. So, yeah, obviously that's not going to help you in combat, but it does keep him alive a little bit longer. My favourite out of all of these ones are probably Nexus of Fate, to be honest. I think the mortal ones aren't particularly good because some of them are aimed for combat purposes, and you're not going to get your guy into combat on your terms anyway. Blessings of Tzeentch is quite good, gives you the death save. I quite like that. And the Illusion isn't bad. -1 rend. So, no, sorry, -1 to hit rolls for enemies shooting against your general. So, yeah, they're my top 3, depending on what you're doing. Generically, though, I think the Nexus of Fate is the best one. And with that, those are the command traits for the Disciples of Tzeentch. So now we move on to the artifacts. Now, similar to the command traits, the artifacts are again divided into things like Arcanite Hero, Mortal Hero, and Demon Hero. And then basically the demons get 2 types of artifacts they can take. They get 2 lists, basically, lucky them. So the first one we're going to look at is going to be for the Arcanite Hero. And again, this is all keyword based, as you know. So if something shares the Arcanite and Mortal, you can take one from one of the lists. You're not just restricted to it's in the Arcanite army, you can only have an Arcanite one. He can take one from another list if he shares the keyword. Okay, so Arcanite Hero. So the first one we've got is Ambition's End. So if this weapon causes an unsaved wound on a 5+, it causes an additional mortal wound. And if the target was an enemy wizard, he forgets a random spell. Now the problem with this is, again, your hero has to be in combat. But now that it's a hero, it's not precisely your general, it gives you more flexibility. So if you do have a combat orientated hero in your Tzeentch army, like a Chaos Lord, Demon Prince, something like that, but it's not your general, or is your general, but you just wanted to take him separately as just generic sort of hero, you can dedicate him to be combat, and you can give him this artifact to help him out to wound enemy wizards and for them to forget spells. But the problem is, unless you're fighting things like a Great Unclean One, Nagash, Archaon, Alariel, these big sort of, monster heroes, again, Keepers of Secrets, Manticores, all these sorts of things. Unless you're fighting those big wizard heroes, any other wizard that's going to be in combat, like the 5 wound wizards, after you've attacked them, is more than likely going to be dead. And you could argue, yeah, but you might have attacked that enemy wizard with something that didn't have the best attack, so just chipping away at 1 wound of them may make them forget a spell, and then you've irritated the enemy. Yeah, but you're not going to make something that is really, really, really crap have an artifact. So, yeah, I like the idea of Ambition's Ends. I think it's very lore-fitting and very fluff-fitting, but I just don't think it works out on the table. And then number 2, we've got Secret Eater. So if a hero is slain by this weapon, you can roll and add another dice to your destiny pool. Against hero heavy armies, what you got to remember, this might be good, otherwise pass it. No specifications if it is a melee or a ranged weapon, so it can be both as far as I'm aware. And why I like this is because, like I say, it gives you a way to add to your destiny pool and try and get back up to 9 once you've been spending some dice. Because, like I say, it's all about destiny pool. That's how I look at Tzeentch army, and anything to help with that massively does help. You do have to kill an enemy hero, and you don't kill them with just the bearer of the artifact. He also has to be from his specific weapon. So it makes it more narrow, but it does help you with those destiny dice. So if you're against, like I say, a hero heavy army, if you're against a Slaanesh army, they're going to have 6 heroes in a 2,000 point army, almost guaranteed. And if you are playing against one of those, you're up against it anyway, not going to lie, because it's Slaanesh. However, you're going to get a lot from it. Things like, Gloomspite Gits tend to have a lot of heroes. Legions of Nagash tend to have a lot of heroes. Flesh Eater Courts always has a lot of heroes. So, it could be useful against those, but again, it is a combat-focused artifact. And then we're going to look at number 3, which is Spiteful Shield. And this is roll a dice for each successful hit roll against you. On a 6, the attacker takes a mortal wound after his attacks have been done. Why I like this is because, again, if you put it on a caster or something that's not going to get in combat on your own terms, when the enemy charges you, or the enemy's going to... Basically, if the enemy surrounds you with a horde with this, and they're going to chuck a bucket load of a dice at you, they now have to attack you because they're in combat with you. They cannot, choose to not attack. So that means that there's more chance of getting those, 62 more wounds back to them. And the enemy's more than aware of this, more than likely. But it will make them maybe think, oh, maybe I don't need to attack you. Maybe I don't need to kill you just because they don't want to take the mortal wounds in return. They could just attack you with a big block of Greenbush Reapers and don't give a fuck how many mortal wounds they take back, because number 1, they get a save against it. And number 2, they just bring the Greenbush Reapers back, so they don't care. However, against the other armies, not always the case. So I quite like that. It makes it a bit more survivable, and it's not a ability that's like, if I kill something with my combat weapon, and by combat weapon I mean 9 out of 10 times my wizard staff, it's it's better than that in my opinion anyway. Okay, so going on to number 4, we've got Soul Draught. So once per battle you can drink and roll 3 dice to cast and unbind, taking the highest 2 until the end of the phase. So essentially, I like this because it helps your chance of casting spells, which gives you, the extra fate point and whatnot, because each just have some devastating spells, such as if you want your Gaunt Summoner to get his Infernal Flame spell off just to be able to target that enemy horde. It will help for certain situations. It's pretty much not that good for heroes and wizards that can only cast 1 spell, because I think it's a bit, it's a once per battle thing and you're just using it to do 1 spell. Because the effect lasts until the end of your phase, you might as well make the most of it, mind you. So yeah, that's my opinion on that. And then the number 5, we've got a Glamour Fetish. So opponents add 1 to battleship test rolls while within 9 inches of this model. So it's alright, it's not amazing. However, if you do want to try and do a bravery, a bomb against your opponent with things like this and some of the endless spells, and so quite a few of them, that minus your enemy's bravery, and that's how you want to go. It's something you want to build towards, because a lot of armies can make some bravery bombs. Some armies can do it better than others, but it is quite a useful thing to catch your opponent off guard with, especially how a few of the top table armies at the moment have actually got quite bad bravery. So it's something to think about, but it's one of those things where it's take it or leave it. If you're not really worried about it, then if you're not doing anything else to make the enemy minus bravery, I wouldn't worry about it. Okay, and then number 6, we've got a Wind Thief Charm. So once per battle, the bearer can move twice as far and count as flying while doing so. So I like this one a lot, and it might seem a bit like once per battle just to be able to get some movement. However, I've always talked about how movement is so important in this game. Unbelievably important. Age of Sigmar is a game of movement and, movability, and being able to basically strategic positioning continuously to be able to take the objectives. It's all about objectives. So I really like this. And if you're on your last turn and you need your general who's one of your only models left on the table to be able to get to the other side of the board, to be able to take an objective, or just to be able to move that a bit further, and it all depends on that, because I've had countless games and tournaments where everything's came down to movement, not about killing power. This really helped. It's like a spell I have for Allegiance to Nagash was Amphine Pinions, which is adds 5 inches to the caster's movement, or if you double cast it adds 10 inches from what I remember, and that has won me more games than, I don't know, a unit of 6 Morghast doing a round of attacks. So it's really, really important, and because of that, I'm probably going to say out of all of these artifacts, that one there is going to be my favourite, just for the movement, and also if the enemy's closing on you, you can use it just to piss off and get out of there. So yes, I like it. Okay, and then the next one we're going to look at is going to be for fated artifacts. So this can be for Arcanite and Mortal heroes in a Tzeentch army. So the first one we have got is going to be the Wicked Shard, and this allows for rerolls of 1s to wound, but if the bearer successfully dispels a spell, then he gets to reroll all failed wound rolls. So essentially, I feel like I'm just ending up repeating myself, because essentially you don't have too many combat heroes in the army. There are a few that can cast spells and be into combat, so this is going to be good for them. Otherwise, not good at all. If you don't plan on getting your guy into combat, obviously, don't even bother giving them this artifact. Okay, the next one, number 2, is going to be Changeblade. So if you get a kill with a weapon chosen as this, then whenever you kill an enemy hero, you get a pet spawn. So, I mean, it's good against weak heroes. Again, you need to be combat orientated to really get this off, and you get a spawn. Spawns aren't horrifically bad, but they're nothing to write home about. So, I mean, it's cool, it's narrative fun, but it's, for me, I'm not bothered by it. And then number 3, we've got Nexus Staff. So if you kill a hero with this, then for each enemy unit within 9 inches, you do D3 mortal wounds on a 4+. So, I mean, again, you have to kill that enemy hero, don't you? And to be fair, it is good. You have to get a 4+, but 9 inches is a big range. It's not wholly with 9. So, I do like it, but again, you have to have a killy hero. Okay, so number 4, we've got the Time Slip dependent. So once per battle, the hero can pile an attack at the end of the hero phase. So essentially, you can pile an attack twice. Again, Chaos Lord and Manticore, you know, Thaumaturge. It's, again, a combat hero, otherwise not worth it. And then we've got the Demon Heart for number 5 on the artifact. So once per any hero phase, your hero can get +1 to damage on its weapons, but at the end of the round, roll a dice, and on a 1, hero suffers a mortal wound. So again, Chaos Lord Manticore, something else that's good in combat, otherwise not worth taking. And then number 6, we have the Paradoxical Shield. So it gives your guy a 2+ save, however you have to reroll all successful saves. So swings and roundabouts to that one, pretty good, as long as you don't get ones, essentially. Now, so with those artifacts, I don't know if you can tell, but with those I'm really disappointed, mainly because when I had a Tzeentch army when the book first came out, it was all Slaves to Darkness, so I could only take from a list of fear, and all I wanted for my generals and heroes were for them to be spellcasters, and that's the route I really wanted to go. And pretty much every single one of these artifacts, none of them complement that. They pretty much all just go towards your hero being combat effective, when in my eyes that's not what I wanted to do with the army. I didn't see it as their strength, and I didn't want to try and force it upon them. So I wasn't happy with the results. So I think out of all of them, for me, I would go with the Paradoxical Shield for the 2+ save. Yeah, you have to reroll your saves, but it helps the enemy chucks a bucketload of attacks at you or something from shooting. It's just more useful than the rest. Yeah, you could go, well, I'm going to Chaos Lord and Manticore and have him be, you know, obviously a sorcerer, and you go Rickard Shard, and then that gives him to be able to reroll once the wound, or if he managed to cast a spell or dispel an enemy spell, then he gets to reroll all failed wound rolls. But I don't want to get my Chaos Sorcerer Lord or Manticore into combat. So, yeah, I'm just disappointed with these really, because for me as well, because I had quite a large Tzeentch Slaves Darkness army, which I no longer have, but I was so looking forward to this book coming out. It's quite a few years back now, but I was so looking forward to this book coming out, getting some new rules for my Slaves Darkness. And then when this book came out, like, these artifacts, to me as well, highlighted it with some other things. That it's like, oh yeah, you can take Slaves Darkness in this army, but we want you to just buy the new stuff. And it was just really annoying me, basically. But anyway, moving on from that, you know, unhappiness, let's get back to the artifacts. Now we're going to look at demonic weapons. So this is for, obviously, you know, you teach demons. The first one is Warp Fire Blade. So 6 to wound, do an extra mortal wound in addition to normal wounds on a melee weapon of the hero's choosing. So there's nothing really special about this one, in all honesty to you guys. It's nothing really amazing or stands out. It's alright. I mean, you have it on a Lord of Change or something. I mean, when he's in combat, he can do even more, but the real question is, why are you getting these heroes into combat? And I use the Lord of Change as the best example for a hero to maybe be in combat in your Tzeentch army. And in otherwise, yeah, we've already talked about why you don't put your hero in combat in a Tzeentch army. And we will now move on. So at number 2, we're going to have Sentient Weapons. So your opponent cannot benefit to modifiers in their saves. So what this basically means is when you have I don't want to swear, so I won't do. But if you've got a Stormcast Castellant, or Lord Castellant, I think his full title is, who puts his Bloody Lantern on one of the Stormcast unit, gives it a +1 to its save, it will no longer benefit from it. And to be honest, I really like that. Just for that reason alone. Just to piss off someone who's trying to make a Star Drake unkillable, you can go, fuck off. However, I say I wouldn't swear, but, you know, it just comes out, I can't stop when I talk about Stormcast. So, but again, I do not want to be getting my heroes into combat. So I will not be choosing this weapon. Or this, well, I suppose it is a weapon because it's an artifact, isn't it? But it's demonic weapons. This list of artifacts. So if I knew I was fighting against a Stormcast army that's bound to have a Lord Castellan in it, I would consider taking this. However, you never know that when you go to tournaments. So the next one we're going to look at, number 3, is going to be the Blade of Fate. So this does basically allows you to choose one of your melee weapons, gets to reroll once to hit, and wounds, as long as you have at least one Destiny dice in your Destiny pool. Fairly easy to do that. Have one left in there, that's fine. However, if you still have all 9 Destiny dice in your pool, you can re-roll all failed to wound and to hit rolls. So, that is very good. However, if that's the case, then you're planning to not really using your Destiny dice unless you're very, very, very specific and very careful when you do. Otherwise, you just get the 1s to hit and 1s to wound to be able to re-roll. And the other thing I just want to say is, again, why are you getting your guy into combat? So with that, I do not like, to be honest, out of all these demonic weapons, I'm not really liking any of them because I think you're better off just taking another artifact that's going to do something else than enhance your combat capabilities, because you don't really have any to enhance in the first place. But, okay, so that's that one. And then moving on to the next one, which is going to be Soul Eater. A weapon gets +1 attack whenever it slays a hero. Right, okay, I don't like that, because then you need to clock on killing your bloody enemy heroes. And this is not a Mega Boss and War Crusher situation who's going to be able to just go clocking around killing all the heroes and, you know, stacking his attacks. This is a bloody wizard, more than likely, at the end of the day. So, no. Don't like it. You can argue if you gave it to a Demon Prince, it would all have changed, but no, just pick another bloody artifact. So, going on to the next one, we have got number 5, Phantasmal Weapons. So this is actually on a Lord of Change, not bad because it allows you to get bonus to your rend. But the problem with this is, again, you need to be in combat. They will benefit all of his melee weapons. So out of all the combat ones that I'm saying do not take, this one is not as pointless. Okay, and then moving on to number 6, which is Pyrofire Staff, I think it's pronounced. So it gives you like +1 to wound on range attacks. So on a Lord of Change, it's alright. Again, I'm not really going to talk about these any further because I don't really see the point of them. Like I say, you can give a Demon Prince one of these weapons and it enhances his combat ability, because a Demon Prince is not bad in combat in all fairness. However, the only time I've really used a Demon Prince, particularly recently, is in a Slaanesh army, and my Demon Prince most of the time gets to fight first. So I get to see what he does. I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end for a Demon Prince attacks because he doesn't really have too many wounds. But he's not bad in combat, so if you really want to turn him into like a mini blender, and I do say mini blender, then crack on, but I think there are better opportunities. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the demonic powers. So this again is essentially another list of 6 artifacts for your demons. So if you like Ztzeentch demons, you're spoiled more than the Archknights and the Mortals. So going into the demonic powers, the first one is going to be Lord of Flux. So in your hero phase, enemy units within 3 inches of your hero take a mortal wound and a 4+. No, I don't like this. Again, I do not really want to get my guys into within 3 inches of the enemy unless very specific circumstances. And even if the enemy surrounds you and you go fuck, 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 and somehow you manage to survive until your hero phase, it's on a 4+. And they don't even take D3, it's just 1. So yes, I do not like that one. Moving on to the next one, which is number 2, which is Aura of Mutability. All your Ztzeentch demon units within 3 inches of this hero get rerolls or 1s to wound. And this works for shooting. So you put it on a hero near a big horror unit, or what I would rather do, flamers unit, to allow them to wound more. Keep in mind though that these work on Zangar Skyfires and Enlightened as well, because thanks to the discs, remember, as the disc is technically a demon, they become demons with their keywords, so they will benefit from this. What I would say though is that if you want to take Care Sorcerer Lord on foot, put him in your army. It does cost a lot of points. However, his spell, Demonic Powers, allows you to reroll save rolls of 1, hit rolls of 1, and wound rolls of 1 for a unit that he picks. Just really good. So I'd rather put that. I put that on a big unit of flames before, and it's done horrific things. So the number 3 we have got is going to be Cursed Ichor. So whenever your hero suffers a wound on a 2+, a random enemy unit within 1 inch of them takes a mortal wound, essentially. I mean, if you want to just dedicate a hero to be a bit of a suicide guy, if you like, and just charge in there and die and do some damage to the enemy, you can do. You know, something like Acid Blood or something like that, but why do you want to pay that many points for a hero and then spend the artifact on and just for him to waste it? So yes, I do not like that one. Number 4, we have got Wellspring of Arcane Might. So each demons within 9 inches of this hero reroll 1s to cast. So keep in mind that horrors and gaunt summoners are as each demons. Also helps to make sure Lord of Changes pretty much never fails a casting roll. So I like this one. I think this is the best one I've read so far, by far, for the demons. Purely because it's not just like, oh, it's helping me get my spells off, so I'm doing my spells what I intended to do. You know, very nice, very good. But it's also giving you those extra fate points, isn't it, to be able to summon. Everything comes back to those fate points as well. So, yeah, I think that's generally really good. I got a lot of versatility. And then number 5, we've got Aspect of Tzeentch. So while this hero is on the battlefield, anytime you use a Destiny dice for anything while he is on the field, you roll a d6. On a 6, you get a new one back. Don't bet on it working more than twice per game though, but those 2 times are really damn good. Because the problem with your Destiny dice, obviously, they're great, but you only get 9 of them. And I've talked there are ways to be able to enhance how many you get and try and replace them and change them for better results. And I fought against Tzeentch armies with this, and yeah, it says you only get it twice in a game. You know, like on average, you know, you can sort of count on that. But when I've played against the Tzeentch army, I mean, I swear opponents have every time they've, you know, spent a Destiny dice, they've rolled it and they've got a 6 and they've just got one back. I mean, I've had it so many times the enemy uses like 2 Destiny dice, so then they roll 2 dice to try and get 6s to get Destiny dice back. They happen to roll 2 6s and then they roll again to see what the result is, and they'll roll that dice again and it'll be a 6, and it's just like so frustrating. It's a really good way to frustrate your enemy. So yeah, that is good. And then number 6 is Mark of the Conjurer. So give 2 fate points instead of 1 if a successful casting roll was a double and not unbound. Could be very good with your Lord of Change, particularly if you've got like those endless spells. You know, the I can't remember the full name of it, but you know, the cogs. If you use that to make you be able to cast an additional spell, it does help towards that, because then your Lord of Change casts a lot of spells. But it has to be a double. Which, if it was just cast a spell, would be really good. But a double, nah, I don't. I like the potential it can do, but I think the reliability is just not going to be good enough. So my favourites are in order anyway. This is for all the Tzeentch Demon Hero artifacts. If I go through all of them and I just give you my top 3, my first one is going to be Wellspring of Arcane Might. My second one is going to be Aspect of Tzeentch, and my third one is going to be Mark of Conjurer. Okay, so also to mention with all of these artifacts, there are of course the artifacts from the Mortal Realms, you know, from Malign Sorcery. Now there are some ones in there that are better than the ones listed here. However, I'm not going to go into that book because that book's absolutely massive, a load of artifacts. It's something that I might talk about in a separate video. It's something that you're more than welcome to read up yourself. Or, you know, go online, you can probably find most of them there. And, yeah, so that's just something to bear in mind. So, you know, when you see these artifacts, don't think that's the only thing you can ever give your heroes. There is a whole wealth of different artifacts out there from the realms. So, with that, I'm going to end the video just because I've covered the allegiance abilities for the Arcanines of Tzeentch. I just haven't really gone into their spell laws and stuff. Just because the video's coming up to an hour now, I think this is quite a good length, and my throat is getting quite sore, so I'll stop here. But we've looked at the battle traits for Tzeentch, the command traits, and the artifacts, and there's plenty to choose from. So I hope you found this video useful, guys, and you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. If you'd like to support me a step further, I have got a Patreon account, which is a great way to get support for the channel. And I'd like to thank my patrons for all their really hard work by supporting the channel. Believe me, if you enjoy the content, you can thank them on behalf, because they really do help support it and fund it. And guys, if you play Tzeentch and all that sort of thing, so I haven't played Tzeentch for a little while. So if you've played Tzeentch, let me know in the comments your thoughts on them. If you've agree with anything I say, let me know. Tell me your thoughts. If you disagree with anything I say, please let me know in the comments as well, so we can all learn. And yes, so it's been quite. They've got quite a lot of things up their sleeves each. Some things are better than others. I've made that quite clear in this video. But there we are. So guys, like I say, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And remember, until next time, Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.